everyone. Thank you for joining our Back to School Facebook video series. My name is Jen, and I'm a school health nurse at Niagara Region Public Health. Today, we'll be discussing consent and the impacts of social media on students with our guest from the Niagara Sexual Assault Centre, also known as CARSA. Our speaker will be sharing their professional experience, as well as highlighting the supports and services that are available through CARSA. We understand the topic of this video may be triggering for some of our viewers, so please reach out to your healthcare provider, CARSA, or Niagara Parents if you're in need of support. Before we begin, we would like to give a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are hosting this event is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum and the Two-Row Wampum Agreements. These agreements established relationships between nations for harmonious coexistence based on respect, kindness, acceptance, and stewardship of the land and resources to ensure that all people benefit and thrive. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living in Niagara is directly related to the resources and friendships of the Indigenous people. So I'd like to introduce Donna. She's a public educator with the Niagara Sexual Assault Centre. Donna, could you start out telling us a little bit about your professional background and some of the work that you do with the Sexual Assault Centre?
Yeah, thank you. I do one of the people doing the public education at the center. I spend most of my time primarily in elementary schools. I mean, at our center, we'll talk to anyone who will listen to us, but we seem to have, over the years, it seems to have been that we spend most of our time in schools, and I think that's good. I think that's where we need to be. So we have 3 different programs, actually 4 now, for elementary, and I can just talk about those.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So maybe like the grade level, what kind of grades are going in, and different topics that you'd be talking about with each of those.
Yeah, so for grades 1 to 6, we have the Child Assault Prevention Program. Mm-hmm. That is a program that is not ours, and what I mean when I say that is that program originated in the United States. It's actually offered in many different countries throughout the world right now. We received training almost 30 years ago now to do this program. And so we're trained to deliver this program. And I would say that all of the programs that we do cover the same 2 topics, abuse and prevention. And there's a lot to talk about in that. Abuse looks very different depending on the situation. And that's one of the things we want people to understand. And CAP, the topics that it covers is bullying, assault by someone you know, and strangers. CAP is unique because it's delivered through role play. So when we're going into a school, we will do these role plays. Let's say it's about bullying. We'll do that role play. We'll do it negatively. Then we will sit down and talk to the kids about what was wrong with that. How could we fix that? And then, so they get to talk about that. And then they get to participate in the role play. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, how they're learning. They're practicing the skills that we're talking about. And we do the same thing with strangers, and then we talk about assault by someone they know, which is when we talk about sexual abuse. Kids don't participate in that role play. Mm-hmm. We do it for them, and then we have a discussion about all of the things around sexual assault that are important to talk about. For example, in the role play, what we're using to show being touched by someone when you don't want it is a kiss. Mm-hmm. But we talk about it could be anything, and we talk about what sexual assault is. They make the child keep it a secret, so we can talk about, things like not keeping these things a secret. How did that make them feel? So we can talk about trusting their gut, which is really important. And after we do all of this, then kids have an opportunity to talk to us about anything that may have come up for them during this program. And it's at that point that we can, direct them to other people they can talk to. Sometimes it means we have to report what they're telling us. Before we do this program with the kids, we do a workshop with teachers and parents, because we believe that you don't know who a child is going to go to. And so we want everyone in the community, in that school community, to have the same information. So we do that first, and then we do the programs with the kids.
And it'd be the kids alone, and the parents wouldn't be attending that? That would be...
No, it would be the kids alone. The parent workshop is an opportunity for parents to come and find out what we're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. If they have any questions or concerns, that would be the time for them to to ask those. So that's what we're doing with grade 1 to 6. Grade 7 and 8 is just me. And it's the same, I mean, as I said, we're still talking about abuse, but it's more focused to what kinds of things grade 7 and 8 students would be dealing with. So bullying is still a huge issue, cyberbullying, of course. One thing that we do, that we've done for a while, and this was at the request of teachers a long time ago, was to talk about the difference between sexual harassment and flirting, because there seems to be some confusion around that with students, right? So, and then of course we're always talking about, we do talk about healthy relationships, sexual assault, and just the different ways that abuse can look. Because abuse, I think, when we talk about what kinds of questions do kids ask, always about strangers. Always, always, always about strangers. And I think that's because of what they see and hear on, media, internet. But it's interesting, someone did a study and found that kids are safer outside than they are online.
Wow.
So all of those things that we would have, probably your parents told you about, which was don't talk to strangers and, all those safety things, those kinds of crimes have gone down.
Yeah. Online
crimes, of course, have gone way up. And so it was just interesting to me that kids are still focused on the white van driving around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that is a real fear for them. So I think that's where they're, getting that information. But doesn't matter if it's grade 1 or grade 8, they all want to talk about strangers and self-defense and what they're allowed to do to someone. This would be older kids like grade 7 and 8. But that seems to be a lot of what their focus is.
Yeah. So when we talk about sexual abuse prevention, and you talked a lot about cyberbullying and things, where does social media come into that? So I know, when I was a kid, social media wasn't as big as maybe it is now. Now everyone has a smartphone in their pocket. Do you touch on social media when you're talking to kids in those programs?
Yeah, you have to. You really do have to. Cyberbullying is a big thing. We talk to them about why is it easier to cyberbully someone? How often does it happen? What apps, does it happen the most on, that kind of thing? And, then we talk about sexting. But for the cyberbullying, I think it happens more online now than bullying happens more online than face-to-face bullying. And they're pretty honest. They say things like, it's easier to do it online because you don't have to see the look on their face when you hurt them. Yeah. So they're aware, they're aware of what they're doing. It's just easier to say this. It's easier to, make fun of someone, or even things like if someone posts something negative about someone and you like it, are you still bullying them? And that's an interesting conversation because a lot of them say, no, I didn't put it there. But they don't understand that by participating in it, they're allowing that to keep going. So, I think it's important to have those kinds of conversations about just because somebody, your friends are making fun of this person online doesn't mean you should be doing the same thing. It's no different than if you were standing in the schoolyard laughing because someone was getting made fun of. But somehow online they're able to remove themselves from that and just say, well, I didn't put it there, so it's not my thing, not my fault type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we do talk about sexting because sexting is happening, and it's I give them the definition. Most of them know what it is. You can tell sometimes, in grade 7, they're still pretty young. Some of them really don't know what it is. Some of them, believe it or not, don't have phones. Not too many, but some of them don't. So we give the definition, and then I tell them that it's considered distributing child pornography. Even if the picture, this is a question I will get a lot, which would be, well, what if the picture's of myself? Because I want to send it.
Yeah.
And it's my body and I can do what I want. It's still considered distributing child pornography. And having that picture on your phone is considered possession. So we have to talk about things like sharing it. Even if you're just sharing it once, you could be charged. And we do talk about the charges that could happen, and that kids their age have been charged in Niagara with doing this. So, and again, what the consequences of that would be. Things like, do you want, you're going to be looking for a job. Do you want that to be what comes up when someone Googles your name, that you were charged with possession of child pornography? Because it will come up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real eye-opener for most of them. Like you can usually tell by the looks on their faces that they're looking at each other going, oh my God. They're looking like, oh. And for some of them, it's, they look at it as flirting. It's becoming very normalized for kids. I think kids as young as grade 5 and 6 are doing this.
Yep.
I'm sure there might be some even younger. I think the minute they have that phone and they see that other people around them are doing it, or maybe they're pressuring them to do it. When I ask kids, why do teenagers do this? Why do kids your age do this? Is it peer pressure? Is it because they want to? Most of them say peer pressure. And the peer pressure is coming from either their friend group or someone they like who is saying, send me a picture. And so we have to talk to them about, okay, so what do you think happens when you send that picture to them? Do you think that they keep it forever and never share it with anyone? What about if you break up with that person? What do you think they do with that picture? So I think it's important to help them understand that that picture, once you sent it, you have completely lost control of where that picture is going to end up. It could end up on the internet anywhere. It could end up in the hands of predators who are sitting there looking for these pictures. So, I think sometimes the technology moves so quickly that and kids' brains developmentally are not able to, they're not even able to keep up with it. Never mind parents trying to keep up with it, right? So I think it's important to have those conversations with them and just break it down, because they don't want to hear you shouldn't do this. This is bad.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to say, these are the consequences of if you do this, this and this and this might happen. Can you live with that? Do you want that for the rest of your life? Do you want every time your name comes up or someone looks you up, that's what's going to come up about you? Or maybe you're thinking about being a teacher or being, whatever job you're doing. It's going to be hard to do that when that's what they find on the internet, and that could happen. I think those are the things they don't think about, but really important that they do. So I think for parents, those are the kinds of messages you might want to be sending, is just always, okay, 5 years from now, when you're looking for a job, or maybe you want to get into this program at university, you think they're going to want you there? If that's what they find? Because you can't roll that stuff back. Once it's out there, it's out there. So it's those kinds of messages. Also, I think it's different when girls send pictures and boys send pictures. Both do, but I think that the stereotype is still out there that if girls do it, they're sluts.
Definitely.
If boys do it, it's funny.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's a joke. And so I think of the two, it's horrible when anyone gets a picture sent around about them. I'm not saying it's not, but I think there also still is a bit of that double standard for girls and boys doing it. And I think when girls do it, often it is because someone they like is asking them to do it and telling them, I'm not going to share this. I just want this for me. So they like this person and they do it. And so I think that's another conversation to have is, well, if that's what they need for you to go out with them, maybe you want to think about going out with someone else, right? Like, why is that the first thing they're asking of you? Because often it is. Girls will tell me in grade 8, oh yeah, I talked to this guy and the next day he wanted a nude.
Wow.
The next day. So they're not afraid to ask for it. Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting when I think a lot of feedback from parents and teachers is that they think that these are issues until their child's maybe in grade 8 or high school, that they're like, well, my child is in elementary school. This isn't really something they need to touch on yet. What advice would you give parents? What age is the great age that we should start talking about sexual assault and consent and relationships, whether that's online or in person?
As early as possible. 2 or 3 years old.
Wow.
I think it's important to incorporate sexual assault prevention, whether it's in person, online, that kind of message into any safety talk that you're doing.
Yeah.
You don't just tell your child to not, put their hand on the stove once. You probably tell them that on a daily basis. And I think, yes, you can incorporate, different scenarios, different things that are going on around this information, but it doesn't have to be a complicated thing. Don't put your hand on the stove, and, people shouldn't be touching you in the private parts of your body. Make sure that you tell them the proper names for the private parts of their body, because if they don't hear you say it, they're not going to be comfortable coming to you. They've never heard you say the proper names. They're going to think there's something wrong. You say arm, you say leg, but you never say, penis or bum or whatever. Don't have pet names for them. Give them the proper names. That demonstrates that there's part of your body, and enveloped in all of that is the message of consent. You have the right to decide who kisses you, who touches you. And think about the double standards that we as parents do all the time. We say, you don't talk to strangers, you don't, all of that message. But then when Aunt Harriet is over and she wants to kiss your child and your child doesn't want to kiss Aunt Harriet, you say, don't you be rude. You have to kiss her, you're going to hurt her feelings. Child doesn't necessarily differentiate between that and a babysitter who says, no, you have to take your clothes off. Because that babysitter is an authority. So, that message has to be, you get the right to decide who touches you, who you touch. And as a parent, even if you feel like you're hurting someone's feelings, they'll get over it. The child has to know that they have authority, that they have agency over their own body. That's what consent is. And that message can start really early. So, it's the same thing online. All of the safety things that you tell your child in person, tell them about it online. Like I will say to kids in grade 7 and 8 sometimes, if a stranger walked up to you and asked you to lift your shirt and let them take a picture, would you do it? And of course they think that's ridiculous, but they do it online. So just like you would allow that with a stranger, don't online, it's still a stranger. So for parents, don't let your child go to bed with their laptop in their room or their phone. Any app that they're on that has a live chat capability, you can bet they are chatting with a stranger. Would you let them do that in real life? And there's something about online that we're able to remove ourselves or think, that wouldn't happen to my kid. And it does. Predators are on anything where there is a live chat ability. And they're good. They're good at pretending they're your child's age, all of the games that they're playing. There are, unfortunately, adults that are going to be there for that specific reason. They're going to make your child feel comfortable. They're going to get information from them. And what their goal is always to either get them to send some kind of inappropriate picture or agree to meet them. It's one of those two. So just don't go to bed with those devices, really. Because a lot of that, and one of the first questions, I've heard police say this, one of the first questions the predators will say is, where are your parents? Where are you? Where are your parents? They're trying to figure out, are your parents anywhere near while I'm talking to you and while I'm trying to get you to do these things? So that should tell us they know what they're doing. They're 10 steps ahead of us, always. So I think talking, and just letting kids know, you can come to me, we can talk about anything, even if you're uncomfortable with it. Things like sexual abuse, kids need to tell 2 or 3 times before finding an adult who will listen or believe them. And I want you to think about that for a minute. If you were sexually assaulted and you had to tell somebody 3 or 4 times the same story before someone actually listened to you, do you think you'd keep talking? Most kids don't. They shut down after one time. So one of the messages that we try and give kids is keep talking until you find that adult who will listen and believe you. I feel bad having to say that to kids. They shouldn't have to do that, but we know they do. We work at the Sexual Assault Centre. We work with adult survivors of this, and they tell us, yeah, I tried to tell, nobody believed me. So 20 years later, here I am. Kids don't have any power.
Yeah. They
really don't. So, often that's why they wait until they're adults, but we want them to be able to find that help now. So, so for parents hearing that maybe an adult they knew sexually assaulted their child, that's really traumatizing for the parent.
Yeah.
It's just important to set the message to share to your child is, I'm glad you told me, and we're going to get help for this. Because in your brain, you probably are going, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
I can't believe that this person I know did this to my child. That's not the message you want to convey to your child.
Yeah.
It took a lot of courage for them to tell you. So no matter what it is, online, in person, online, they're more likely, I don't want to say more likely, but I think some of the reasons that they may not tell online is because maybe they've been doing something they weren't supposed to be doing. Maybe they weren't supposed to be on that site. Maybe they did share a picture with this person and they don't want to tell their parents they did. But now this person is saying, well, if you don't share this, I'm going to send this picture everywhere, so you better send me another picture. Or sometimes they want money, which is happening a lot to boys. It's always been happening with girls, happening a lot more with boys right now, where they're sending them pictures they think is a girl, their age, and getting him to send a nude, and immediately, okay, you better send me $500 or else I release this picture.
You had a name for that. You call
Sextortion.
it extortion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's becoming a really big thing with boys in that age group right now. So, for some, once they get older, they might be embarrassed. They might know, I did something wrong, so I'm not telling you that. Tell somebody. And that's the message we tell kids. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're too embarrassed to tell your parents. Think about the adults you have around you. Who else can you go to? And hopefully they have more than one. If they don't, think about the adults at your school. Think about, your teacher. Maybe they have a relationship with the school secretary, the school nurse. Whoever they're encountering. But there is a lot of help out there for kids, and I think when anything like this happens to them, they feel isolated and alone and scared, and they shut down. And they think that there's nothing I can do, but there is so much help out there for them. I think that's the primary message we want to get to them, is that there is so much help, but you have to tell somebody. Or a lot of them will tell their friends. And so when I do, in grade 7 and 8, a lot of scenarios and quizzes and videos with them, and one of the scenarios is, if your best friend told you they were being hurt by an adult, they know, but they wanted you to keep it a secret. Would you? And it's surprising how many raise their hand and say, this already happened to me. Like, my friend already told me this. And what they're saying is they went and told an adult anyway, which is obviously what we want them to do, right?
How do you identify between a good secret and a bad secret? I know with a lot of young children and a lot of the research that Nurse Austin and I have been doing is, how do you teach kids, this is an okay secret to keep, or this is not an okay secret to keep, and when they should go tell someone?
We tell kids a good secret is a secret that doesn't hurt anybody, like a birthday party, surprise party. A bad secret is one that makes you feel uncomfortable. In CAP, we tell, when we're talking about trusting your instincts, we tell little kids it's called the uh-oh feeling. It's that feeling you get in your stomach that it's like, uh-oh, I don't like this. It feels like butterflies in their stomach. A bad secret's going to give you that feeling because you shouldn't be keeping it, or that someone's being hurt or potentially hurt because you're keeping that secret. So I say that whether it's grade 3 or grade 8, that's it, right? That's just a secret that doesn't hurt anyone. So if your girlfriend tells you that she's got a crush on someone, that's not, you don't tell everybody in the class who she likes, right? But if someone's being hurt, that's not a secret you keep. Even if your friend tells you, I will not be your friend anymore if you tell this secret.
So what are the next steps? So after, say, I'm a safe adult and a child in my life has disclosed something to me, what would my next steps be, and what are some of the services that they offer at the Sexual Assault Centre that I could access?
It depends on the age. So for elementary school, if a child is disclosing to you, you would need to call Family and Children's Services.
Mm-hmm.
And they will do an intake with you over the phone. It's important that the person that the child disclosed to is the person who calls, because you have the information that was told to you. So you would do that, and then they would then arrange to come in and see the child and kind of take over that whole process. So a child in like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, we don't see at our center. That's for counseling. Mm-hmm. But if a parent maybe got a disclosure and is very upset, they could certainly call. And, just that question you just asked me, what do I do next? How do I deal with this? Again, it's likely going to be someone the parent knows. So they will probably need some help in debriefing with that and just sort of, getting through that moment, because it's a terrible moment for lots of different reasons. So we can certainly do that for parents or family members, friends, whoever the child has disclosed to. But again, it would usually be, or the police, Family and Children's Services, or the police for a child who is being sexually assaulted. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a lot of heavy stuff, and I know for a lot of parents it's going to be really scary to think that this is something that could happen to their child. So if you could recap or give your top tips for a parent who wants to start having these conversations with their kid but they don't know where to start, what would be your number one things that you think parents should start implementing with their kids at home?
Well, like I said, with really small kids, you can read, there's lots of great books out there that you can read to them about, sexual assault issues, like good touch, bad touch kind of thing. When you're talking about safety, just talk about your body parts. Do you know what part this is? Do you know what part this is? And, nobody should ever be touching you there. And if that happens, how do you think that would make you feel? And, you can always come and talk to me about that, always, no matter what the person has said to you. Mm-hmm. So if you're starting that early, that's sort of what you would be doing. When kids are older, when they're online, you need to be involved from the beginning. If they're going to go on an app, they need to show you the app. You need to know everything about it. They need your permission for everything. Yeah. Look at their phones. Don't be afraid to do that. You are in charge. I think, it can be so overwhelming, and parents think, I can't keep up with this, the online stuff. But you're still in charge. And that's one of the things we tell, kids with sexting need to understand that if they're sexting, they can be charged, but so will their parents be charged.
That's new information. I had no idea about that.
Their parents own their phones.
Yeah.
They own their phones, and they signed a contract with the cell phone provider because that grade 7 student is not old enough to do that.
Yeah.
So the parent can also be charged. That does happen. Mm-hmm. You were in charge of this phone. This phone now has child pornography on it. You can be charged for that. Mm-hmm. And so that's another thing that we make sure that we tell kids. That's usually when their faces go white.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's true. But I think parents remember, you're in charge. You get to say, you're done. At 8:00, that phone goes off. Mm-hmm. They're not going to like it. If I can't take it to my room, I'm going to die. No, you're not. But, and make sure that, again, they can talk to you about if somebody, sends them an inappropriate picture, if they get a request to send me an inappropriate picture, all these things that happen all the time on every single app I've ever heard of. Come and talk to you about it. Kids know that they can report this to the app. They also tell me that nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
So they know they can do it, but what they really need to do is they need to talk to an adult about it. Especially for young kids, they're going to be exposed to inappropriate content online. They may not, usually they're not looking for it, but it pops up. Mm-hmm. That can be really traumatizing for a young child to see that. Mm-hmm. And so, again, go and talk to parents about it. Kids start watching pornography on phones at about grade 5. So, for parents who think they don't, they do. And for a lot of kids, that's where they're learning about sex. That's where they're learning all of those things. not the best place to be learning that, right? But they have this in their hand, and no matter how careful you are, they're going to go to school and someone else is going to show them how to do it. Mm-hmm. They all have phones.
Yeah.
So they're going to be exposed to it much, much younger than you would ever want them to be. That's another conversation it's important to have with them. Mm-hmm. Is about, what are you seeing? Are you watching it? All of that stuff, mm-hmm. because it's happening too.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do to help keep kids safe, and this was great information.
Thank you.
And we'll put everything.
We appreciate being able to share.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you once again to Donna for taking the time to share such important information with all of us. As a reminder, this presentation has been recorded, and all the supportive links that were mentioned are down below. For any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Niagara Parents by phone, live chat, or Facebook Messenger. Tune in next Thursday for a conversation with Donna's colleague from CARSA as they discuss healthy relationships, consent, and signs of danger. That presentation is targeted towards parents and caregivers of students in high school. Thank you once again for watching, and wishing you and your family a wonderful school year.